Righty. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream here at the Price Tag Aquariums. I'm glad to have you guys here with me, hoping that your July 4th was a fantastic holiday for you all and for everyone who's in another country. I hope you enjoyed the 4th of July. um, but I'm sure some of you might still be celebrating or maybe finish celebrating and possibly recuperating. But hopefully, like Tim, he shared his firework display on Jesse's Discord, so that was cool. And hope everyone got out to see at least some fireworks, shot some fireworks off, or even bought your own fireworks. So it was good for me, and weather's been phenomenal here. The fireworks that I went to was near my grandma's retirement home. So we went there, and when we left, there was a local place that does fireworks that it's always jam packed, and we ran into traffic on that in the way home. So that was kind of hectic. But other than that, it was really, really good. And the subject for tonight, too, I'll kind of wait for more people to roll in. But before I get diving, before I dive deep into the subject, um, but I want to tell you guys some small updates on some things going on here. And I also want to thank you guys for giving us um, the undivided attention from Jesse and I's live stream on Saturday morning. Um, it went really well. We really got in really deep with the whole bucket situation, and Jesse would like wait the extra mile. So I congratulate him for doing that. Hi, Henry. We got Slim Tim in here. We got Henry in here. Um, give me a AV check if you don't mind. I can check here on YouTube as well. But yeah, Jesse definitely went the extra mile on that whole bucket thing. Hopefully that you guys can hear and see me all right. That's always a challenge for me lately. Like I never have like a smooth live stream. Okay, that's good, Tim. I appreciate it. Another thing I wanted to ask you guys too, while we're waiting for people to roll in, is I was wondering if you guys have liked your the fishing live streams that I've had on the vertical and horizontal. Um, I hope you guys have enjoyed that as much as I have for something different. Um, Henry, I've been doing good. My week has been super busy. That's kind of one of the updates I wanted to give you guys once we get in here before the topic. But my week was very busy. A lot of fish movement and a lot of tank movement, tearing down tanks and putting them into storage until other people want to buy them or they just being saved for future use. I'm currently working on a video. And still doing a lot of editing because this video is a lot. Uh, and the reason being is because there's a lot of steps involving each particular thing that lead me up to, why I've been doing all this and driving to multiple locations and doing this all on my own. So it's been taking up a lot of time, energy, and just a lot of strength. And it's just a lot of time consumption doing all this, but it's been fun. And I got to tell you, like when I have all this room in the fish room, and I don't regret anything that I've done in the past up until now by any means, because it was a whole lot of fun. So I really want to really stress that about my channel here. And it seems like I'm really tearing down a lot of fish tanks. I'm not getting out of the hobby, but in a sense, it was all an experience, and I loved every bit of it. But in order for me to be able to maintain the enjoyment of my hobby, I have to downsize and make time for other things. So I'm not being 100% or even give or take, this hobby and missing out on other things in the future. So I always have to, I always say this all the time. You guys probably are tired of hearing the broken record of me saying, you always got to stay, below that fine line of, whether it's too much work and you don't enjoy the hobby, and staying under that line and saying, oh, this is too much and I'm missing out on stuff. And I've never in my entire fish keeping career have ever thought that maintenance and all that stuff I never enjoyed. It was always made time for it. But the future has different plans for me right now. So I gotta prepare for it. Um, but Henry, I'm glad you like the fishing live streams. I appreciate it. They're different. The first time, the first few times I did it, I didn't catch anything. Unfortunately, it is still pretty hot. It was over 90 degrees today. It was like in the mid 80s this past week, and today it was like lower 90s to mid 90s today. It was a hot one today. Um, so I'm glad you guys, Henry. I'm glad you liked the fishing live stream. When I went to a a local pond, or a private pond, I should say, I had better luck there, and I caught 5 bass and an albino catfish. So if you look into that live stream about an hour and 35 minutes in, maybe give or take, you'll see me catch that albino catfish, and I've never seen it before. And so when I talked to the owner of that private pond, he said that he wasn't sure if that albino catfish was going to make it, and it's the only one in that pond that he put in there. So when I talked to him later, this is why he told me about it, and it was really cool that I was able to catch that and check up on it and see if it's still in there, and it obviously still was because I got it. And he went in the water just fine, and he's living the dream. So 3G, thanks for coming in. Who else we got in here? Tried to drop the link. Fish fan beat you to it, maybe, or um, but yeah, other things that's happening, like I said, is if you guys haven't seen it, or if you guys missed out on Jesse and I's live stream, Sailing Aquatics, um, we did a deep discussion on the buckets. And the hilarious thing about it is not only, yes, he did prove me wrong, between the video and his resources that he looked into this, but it was hilarious because I had made an interesting observation. And if you guys haven't seen my short that I realized that I actually made shortly after the live stream and shared it with every one of you guys, that everything that we had talked about in that live stream about Lowe's buckets being better and how they are superior, in Jesse's words, to the Home Depot buckets, it actually has the exact same specs right now on the Home Depot bucket, or the Home Depot bucket, and the integrity of it is literally down to a T, and it's made from the same USA company. And that's why I made that short. And I said, man, you're never gonna believe what I just saw on these Home Depot buckets. And I wish I had seen it before the live stream started, because then it would have been, or at least in between the live stream, because after looking at the 3 buckets that I had, only one of the three had the lower specs and the less integral bucket. So it was kind of funny to see that happen and unfold. And I was just like, wow, I wish I had had that happen in the middle of the live stream. um, yeah. And I enjoy the hobby with more fish tanks too, just like everybody with MTS. I do agree with you on that, Henry. But at any rate, I have to plan for the future. And if I want to even get this 220 in, and even since I've had this 220 gallon, in the middle of the winter time, like in December, I knew this was going to be at least something that I would have to tear down in order to bring it in. And it just so happens that there was more involved than I anticipated, and I wanted to make sure that whenever we move this in, that this was going to be enough room, and I could be able to not have any issues bringing it in the room with no fish tanks on the other side of the camera right now. So that's why I got rid of those fish tanks, and I believe the fish tank would have fit in here. But the other issue is, like, the fish tank itself would fit through the doorway, and it would fit through this room with those 4 fish tanks behind the camera there if they were still there. But the other problem is needing space for bodies to be able to move the fish tank. And that's where I didn't want to run into as well. And same goes with against that wall over there. If I were to kept the 20-gallon long setup, I don't know if it would have. The hardest part would be to not necessarily get the fish tank into the room because you can kind of shimmy it with 2x4s and PVC pipe and stuff like that. That's kind of what my brother's and I's idea have come up with. So getting it in the room is not necessarily the hard part, but it's just more or less just lifting the tank up and putting it in its spot on the stand. So we want to make sure to have enough room on at least 3 sides to be able to lift it up and put it on its respective spot. And I think with that 20-gallon long, it would have been really tight and it would be almost impossible to lift it up and onto the stand without moving that stand. So that's why I decided to take that stand down as well and do a little bit less work in the future. So this all played a good part in all this sort of thing. Um, but yeah. What else? We the reason I was relate to the live stream today too is that we for one we went to an Indians game and it was hot. And the game lasted a little bit longer than anticipated too. I think we were there for like 3.5 hours or so. And it went into extra innings. Long story short, it was a very slow game, but we were winning 1-0 in the let's see, in the bottom of the 8th. We had finally scored a run. So in the top of the 9th, it was the Detroit Tigers, and they had a guy on third base with 2 outs. And the Indians' main pitcher, they made it a big deal to come out and get all 3 outs for us. And it was such bad luck. But the Indians pitcher, we had 2 outs, and we only had one more strike to go before winning the game, 1-0. And there was a Detroit Tigers guy on third base, and there was a wild pitch that was thrown and wasn't caught very well, and the guy on third base ran home, and it tied it up. And of course, we did not score in the 9th, and it went into extra innings, and we just got absolutely obliterated. And I think the final score ended up being like 7-2. So that game lasted a little longer. We came home. We jumped in the pool to cool off because it was a hot day. So that was one of the first things that we did. And then after we got home, got in the pool and came back and got something to eat, we ordered pizza. The pizza was delayed by about 15-20 minutes because it seemed like one of their ovens wasn't working, and everyone's food got delayed. So what I would have been on here on time and actually had 10 minutes to spare ended up being pushed back a little bit. So that's why I was late. Henry, if you want to come down and set one up for me, that would be great. Maybe you should come down, and visit here in the fish room whenever it's all changed up and everything, and you can kind of help me install it. Because I've never done one of those before. But I think it would be interesting to set one of those up. I've never looked into setting one up before. When I had as many tanks as I did down here, it was one of those things that I was planning to look into until the future got changed. And I think that would make it easier and quicker for myself. But I'm also the type of person that loves to do water changes and tank maintenance. So I think I would lose that feel of, I would still feel like I would want to do water changes even if I had an automatic water change system. I don't know. I'm just one of those people that I did a canister filter maintenance yesterday on my FX4. And I love doing those. I love taking the impeller out, lubricating the O-rings, taking everything out and rinsing them all out and putting it all back together, making sure everything is all good. So I need to build one myself. Yeah, I'm sure it's not hard. But I think another thing that I want to do and try to teach myself how to do, um, just kind of like with the stands that I have, like the 20-gallon long, um, I'm keeping that stand around. I got rid of my 10-gallon stand to the person that I had sold it to, but I wanted to keep the 20-gallon long stand because that was my very first DIY stand I have ever made, and it got quite a few views on it too, and a lot of comments, and a lot of people really appreciated that video. So I want to keep it as sort of like I was, proud of making it. It's kind of like a keepsake for me. So I'm going to keep continuing to use it and for like shelving purposes. And if somewhere down the road where I have time to do more fish tank operations, that I have a stand that's capable of be able to do it again. So that's why I'm keeping that around. Um, but yeah, another thing I want to give you guys an update on. And now that we're about 25 minutes in, I want to do like a few more minutes. The last thing I want to say is I wanted to do a giveaway. My plan was to do a giveaway on today's live stream, but because I got so busy with this whole entire week, with all the fish stuff I was doing, and then also today got pretty delayed and pretty busy with everything else going on, like I just explained, then I decided to do it and wait for it next weekend. So I didn't have time to actually go out and get some things. And I wanted to make sure to give myself plenty of time to really think about something that's, I'll probably still get like a fish net, but I want to put something else with it as well. And the reason I'm doing this, if you guys have been paying attention to my channel, and the reason why I did the and gifts, from my YouTube shorts, is if I ever, got the gifts for each vertical live stream, and which I did, and I can't thank you guys enough for doing that for me. Is I wanted to give back to you guys, and that was kind of the whole purpose of doing it. Is not only does it give me a little extra, for me, but it also I can take that and give it back to you guys. So I want to make sure to give myself enough time to get the items that I want to do for the giveaway, and then have um, a scheduled live stream well in advance enough so that way people can join in and hang out for a little bit, and then at the end we can do a giveaway, either maybe next Friday or Saturday or Sunday. I'll have to check my schedule and see which works. So, but hey Jesse, I was just talking about you a little bit. All bad things. Just kidding, man. But yeah, it's probably still the other thing is like whenever I start a live stream at 8, and I don't like to do it a whole lot, is it seems like it's pretty early. Um, it seems like a lot of these live streams, I have a lot more success whenever, maybe I shouldn't say success for lots of better terms, but a lot more attendance the later the live streams are. And it's kind of iffy on Sundays, just because the fact that people might be still spending time with their families. We're on the East Coast, so a lot of people on the mid and West Coast we're looking at an hour and 2, maybe 3 hours behind schedule. So they're still doing some family stuff before the work week starts. So I feel like on Sundays it's kind of like a catch-22 where I get like my folks that'll come on here, maybe my brother and like some other people, family and friends that are with me on this live stream. If I started at like 10 o'clock, then they're not going to be out at 10 because it's too late for them. But on the flip side, you might have other people from mid to out west that are just now, getting back, to their house and getting settled in, and then seeing what's on YouTube, on a Sunday evening. So maybe I should do these a little later. But then, of course, 8 o'clock, I always seem to run into something that's going to delay my time, like it had today. So I felt like 8:30 or 9 o'clock is a little bit better of a time to do these live streams. Um, and there is another live stream running at this time. Yeah, I don't pay attention to that, Henry. I have to just go with my schedule, and then just that'd be it. So if you guys need to bounce around different live streams, that's perfectly fine. The fish room's good. Why do you ask? Do you know why the fish room is good? Because I'm using high quality Home Depot buckets that Lowe's copied from Home Depot. I had to give you that a little bit, Jesse. My fourth was good. Um, my fourth was really good, Jesse. Thanks for asking. I went and saw fireworks at my grandma's retirement home because they did fireworks over there, and they actually ended up being not too bad. It was my daughter's first fireworks show. We had to buy those headphones for her so to protect her ears and stuff. Um, so I'm doing well, and I'm feeling well, and everything is good, other than some mosquito bites. Um, Henry, who is the other live stream? Just out of curiosity. Hello, Jose. Jose sent me a voice message, and it was pretty good. Um, he was kind of relating the whole subject matter about how Home Depot and Lowe's are basically the same company. You know, the same company making the same stuff, just putting a different label on it. I thought that was pretty good. So, um, Jose, if you don't know the Indians or follow baseball a whole lot, there's a guy, one of the main batters from the Indians. His name is Jose, and they do their chant with Jose, 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 Jose. Whenever he's up, this they can really get it. The crowd can really get into it, and he's a pretty good player too. Does Brent have a pink bucket, Henry? I think he's all about the Menards bucket. I think right because didn't he talk all about those and they're like red, white, and blue? But I'm glad you guys had stopped by, you know, and hung out on your Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon, I guess I should say. Can you guys still hear me okay? Is my sound good? Okay, cool. Um, the YouTube channel is M and C Aquatics. A lot of people are over there. Okay. You know, he does do those on Sundays. All right, thanks, Jesse. I forgot about that. I always forget those Sundays. A lot of people just and do what you need to do, and I'll do what I have to do. This was just what was convenient for me, and this is what worked out for me for the time frame, even though I was a little bit late. Um, Jose said, "I heard that a few people at work give me that chance sometimes." That's wonderful. Yeah, he's a good player. I don't follow baseball avidly enough to know all the details and nitty gritty of different players and stuff and stats. But you know, if I have time, I might catch a game or two here and there, and that's always good, and that's always fun to have. Jody sent him a pink bucket after my first live on buckets. I'll have to see this bucket. Maybe Branton, whenever we talk next, I'll have to see this pink bucket. My Jesse, you'll find this funny, but I was talking. My dad actually brought it up on the way to the Indians game today. Um, that he was like, "Man, that guy really dove deep into the whole bucket situation," and I was just like, "Yeah, it was a pretty good day. You know, we really we had a lot of fun with that." He's like, "Yeah, we got really serious." And I was like, "Yep, we did. I didn't think it was going to go that far." We ended up talking about it for like the first half of the ride there and how he thought it was hilarious, you know, that the shorts that I made and the video that you came up with, and then come to find out later that the Lowe's and Home Depot buckets are literally the exact same bucket. So he thought that was pretty funny. Um, can't chat on MNC's lives. I've been ghost blocked over there and he can't fix it. That's bizarre. I wonder why. Does it have something to do with maybe like the YouTube shorts and you can't comment on that? Is it maybe it has something to do with that and it can never be fixed? That's bizarre. He has 6 guests. Holy smoke. Popular guy. I bet there's people over there like Curtis and MNC and I don't know, a few other people that we probably all know. But that's fine though. As a Dominican, I should follow baseball more, and I don't. I think baseball is more of a topic, or not topic. We're going to get into that here soon. But I think baseball is something that's better for the experience to go to a game as opposed to watching it because between it's kind of like golf. I don't play golf or watch golf. I'll play a mini golf every once in a while, but to watch baseball or golf, it's just so boring for me. I would much rather be in the venue itself to be able to have the experience of watching the game live, or even like golfing. Doing it. It's fun. Like Texas Hold'em for poker. I would much rather play poker than watch someone play poker because it just bores the crap out of me. Um, no, MNC could fix. He just doesn't put the forth effort. Same thing happened to Whip on my lives a while back, and I fixed it. Oh, okay, that's fair. Um, Christopher Junkins says, "Just keep Brandon away from the shower. You can't stop that man from showering in speedos." I don't know anything about that. I don't know if I should comment further about that. Is there an inside joke when it comes to that? I'm kind of curious, but not too curious. He's wondering if you're actually from the Caribbean. um, Jesse says too hard to dig into the slightly more complicated things for him, I guess. Yeah, I get that. Jose visited a family yesterday and saw a Harbor Freight red bucket and a Home Depot there. I had to look to see what you guys did. Harbor Freight and the older Home Depot are the same. So if Brandon's all about the Harbor Freight buckets and it's the older Home Depot buckets, then that means Harbor Freight's buckets are crap, right? Because Home Depot has upgraded, and Home Depot and Lowe's are exactly the same thing. So if Brandon has an argument about these buckets being better, he needs to, pay attention more. um, but hey Jim, used tanks are cool if you find ones that are worth buying. My 240 is used and I resealed it. So Jim, thanks for coming in. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the topic. Now that we've had about 30 minutes to discuss some updates and stuff like that. Because I'm not sure how long I'm gonna go tonight. Depending on the crowd and who decides to join in. But thanks, Jim, for coming in. I appreciate it. Chris says there's a tool company that makes handle mold into the bottom and a heavy duty strap on top. I never thought I would get excited about a bucket, but it's amazing engineering. Hey, boo boo. So Jim, I'm gonna go back to your comment. Um, I think it's a good point. Where did you go? Let me go back to here. So I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. Jim from Happy Place Aquatics. Used tanks are cool if you find one that are worth buying. My 240 is used and I resealed it. So that's kind of like I put a list together of a lot of different things that to consider when buying a used tank. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. I know it's very easy to go to the store and buy them at the 50% off sale. Some stores even do extra discounts and stuff, and it's easy to have a peace of mind saying that, hey, if something's wrong with this tank, most of them come with a warranty, either a 1 year warranty or 2 years, something like that. You can take it back to the store at the receipt, you can get it exchanged, and call the company, and then you can just get a new one. And that's simple enough for a lot of people. I know Jesse, he said that you can relay this back on the chat, Jesse, but I believe you said on our live stream on Saturday that every single one of your tanks are used tanks. Unless you do have like a select one or two that you bought brand new, but I believe you said all of yours you bought new or you bought used. Okay, Henry's doing water changes in the background. Jesse says you can get it 55 gallons, like finding litter along the road of home or the road or Home Depot buckets in a ditch. Save 10 gallons. I won't buy another tank that's less than 125. Yeah. So relating to Jim's message here is resealing. This is one of the many things I want to cover. And I know that some people don't have the ability to reseal tanks, and some people are afraid to do it, or some people maybe just don't want to do it. Depending on your experience, your how long you've been in the hobby, and what you're willing to do. So that's definitely something to consider. That if you ever buy a used tank, If you're not in the expertise of what to reseal or don't have any experience and are afraid to do it, that's a good point to bring up. That one thing that's real particular if you go to buy a used tank is to pay attention to all the seals. What else did I put on here? Make sure that none of the seals are cracked. They're still in good integrity and that sort of thing. Check all the corners, the sides, make sure all the beads, of each seal is good. Um, you know, check for leaks and that sort of thing. So that's kind of important. So that's why I kind of wanted to highlight that. And Jim has the expertise of being able to reseal his tanks. I've done the 3 reseals in my lifetime in the fish keeping hobby, and um, I am 2 for 3 because the first one I did, it worked, and then a couple months later, I would say, and it was a 10-gallon, it leaked again. And I was just resealing over top of the reseal, and then I learned from my mistake that it really doesn't work that well. Like I was like overdoing everything on the bottom, and eventually just I wasn't using the right stuff either. So it was just kind of learned from experience. But the second one, I actually resealed the 10-gallon because I got a lot of tips from like different people through chat. I got tips from uh, Jorge. He told me a lot of tips, on how to do resealing and stuff like that. So I think that helped. Um, and Jim, he doesn't think that resealing is hard. It's all about prep. It's intimidating to people. Yeah, and it can be intimidating. And I think that's why some people don't want to do it, because it can be. So I've resealed 110-gallon. I learned from my mistakes and experience. And I think that's the only way that I learned the best. The second one I did worked just fine. Um, and I never had any issues with it. And then after that, I had resealed a 40-gallon breeder tank. And that one still has that seal on to this day. And it has never given me issues. So like I said, I'm 2 for 3 of resealing a fish tank. Um, so here's another point here. Can I decide if I want to move a bunch of 10 and 20 gallons or if I should just get new tanks when I get where we are moving? Yeah, and that's another thing to consider too is whenever you're buying a lot of fish tanks used, that are you going to be traveling anytime soon? Are you in the state of being in a house or an apartment, that if you're going to have to move soon, like are you going to want to move those fish tanks out of your place to go to another place? So that's another thing to consider too. I'm glad, Chris, that you brought that up. I appreciate it. Um, I wonder what each tank would cost in space it takes up in a moving truck. And that's also something to consider as well. I didn't put that on my bullet list. So it also depends on, like with fish tanks, it's not just throwing a couch or a table or a chair, in there. This is glass boxes. And if you don't have some sort of padding or towels or something big that's not going to bother them during the state of the move, do you have the right vehicles to move these things from point A to point B? I mean, this is especially with bigger tanks. You have to really put in consideration of where you're going. Do you have the space for them? And um, the durability of being able to transport them and still be okay when you get from A to B, whether you're moving to a different location as far as yourself wise, or just moving the tank just in general to a different location, and what you're comfortable with. And because they do take up space. When buying used tanks, as mine all are, all right, so I was right then. I leak test for 1 full day, then clean and use. If the seller is willing and can have them fill them up, show a video of it to see if it holds water. Yep, that makes sense to me. We touched base on that a little bit on your live stream. Um, uh, Christopher Junkin says I'm moving 1,500 miles. I don't know what to get rid of and what I should just buy. So yeah, that's something to be in communication with the moving company. Um, where are you headed then, Mr. Chris? If you don't mind us asking. I think in my honest opinion, when buying used tanks, and I want to touch base on specifically going off of marketplace. And the reason being is the reason I brought this up is because I've had a circumstance and a something that's been brought to light for me, and I feel like this is a good topic to discuss. just because of the experience that I've had, and I wanted to share with you guys that brought me all these ideas to come up with and talk to you, and I want to see your guys' opinion about everything. So there's two things that I want to definitely drive home on this. The first question I have for you guys is, um, I want to know from you guys in the chat, what is the biggest size tank that you are willing to meet halfway to go see and be okay with buying just by a glance of looking at it. If they have a video like Jesse was saying to see the tank fill it up, and if there's no leaks and stuff, then that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, what is the biggest size tank that you believe either yourself or to go look, for you to give to someone, or I guess if you were interested in buying a used tank, I guess in this circumstance for the topic discussion, are you willing to meet halfway before the tank gets too big or too much to where you actually have to see it in person? So I want to know what's the biggest tank size that you would go with to either meet halfway, and what's the breaking point to where you say, no, I want to go to the physical location of this person's local fish store or the person's house more so, and see the fish tank up in operation and up and running to make sure there's no leaks, check all the corners and sides and everything. Um, and all that sort of thing. So I want to know your guys' opinion on that. Hi, Sketty. Um, I only buy big used tanks bigger than 125 gallons. So Henry, um, I think that that's kind of my limit. Um, and it's just tank only. We're not talking about like substrate and decorations, all that sort of thing. I just want to try to stay specific on just the fish tanks. Um, And I think, because at 125, you can still comfortably fit one of those in the bed of your truck, depending on the size of your truck. Um, and you can still put like padding around and that sort of thing. So I think that would kind of be my limit, if I were to go that route. Anything bigger than that, I would definitely want to see it in operation. I think even a 125 is really pushing it because I think personally I would rather go see that tank up and running. But if it all came down to it and the person sent me videos and pictures and proof showing that, hey, this tank is up to date, it's running, it's still running today, um, um, I would possibly consider doing it. That's just kind of like the fine line for me of like, it's kind of like I would rather go see it in person. But in my experience, the size tank that I have done just meeting someone halfway is a 40-gallon breeder. Um, and I did receive a 55-gallon from a coworker of mine, which is very generous of him. And he told me a lot about it, how he was just going to plan to use it, and then he never did. And then he ended up giving that to me, and it worked out just fine. And that was a 55. So I guess technically, in my experience, it's a 55-gallon. So I think my limit, when I went to go see a 75-gallon that's upstairs right now, I actually went and saw that tank in person. They filled it up. Well, it was already had water in it with fish in it. So they said, hey, they actually asked me, do you want to see the fish tank up and running? And if you're interested, then we can tear it down, we can go from there. And I said, yes. So that's kind of like another thing that I want to kind of drive home. Hi, Sketty. Haven't seen you in here, but just thought I'd say hi just to make sure. Jesse, what are you doing? Trying to get your crown back. So that's my experience is that I personally would rather go see the tank and like a 75-gallon. And like I said, it's just kind of all on what you think would be worth it to you to either go see in person or to just say, hey, I'll meet you halfway and just trust that the person's okay to deal with. So I want to know your guys' opinion. What is the biggest size tank you guys would want to actually physically go see? Because I think that plays a huge part in it. And the reason why I say that because if you're looking at like a fish tank that's like 150 gallons plus, 220, something big and ginormous, communication is so key when it comes to doing stuff like this, especially through marketplace. And it's actually more convenient for the buyer, in my sake, to be able to see this fish tank in person because in theory, how long do you think you guys takes to look at a fish tank? Like 10, 15 minutes by the time that you see it, look over it for maybe 5, 10 minutes, and then maybe have a short discussion with them for another 5, 10 minutes, and then be on your way, as opposed to bringing the fish tank to the buyer's house and then realizing, oh, I don't want it, and then both parties are dissatisfied because the seller decided, that they wanted to bring it to someone's house, and then they don't want it, and then both parties are mad because the person didn't like it, and then the other party is mad because they had to take all this time and effort to bring it over there just for the fact that they didn't want it. So I think communication is such a key part and factor of this whole entire situation of buying a used tank, and that's something to consider as well. Is if you don't have that good communication with each other and trying to work out each other's schedules, because that's probably the next hardest thing, and that's another point I want to drive home tonight. Is like I said, the size tank that you guys want, and how far you're willing to drive, or the meeting halfway or not. But then the second large factor is oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Oh, lining up each other's schedules. Um, that's the other part, and you had to be, willing to line up each other's schedules and get things to work out and communicate well with each other to be able to say, hey, work out our work life and balance all that out to try to get things to happen. So that way, both parties are happy, everything works out. Because that's what I did with some of the fish that I was selling this past week too. Is I had a big group of a couple guys through marketplace that came to my house. They brought their kids, and it was a whole lot of fun. I mean, it was probably one of the greatest new person experience through marketplace I've ever had. And just because they brought their kids and the family over and stuff. And Alana had a blast when they were over here because they loved the fish room, they loved the in-wall setup, and it just makes it a lot easier whenever you get to see these tanks in person. And then I even told that guy in marketplace before they all came down that you just have a lot better experience. You can actually just talk to the person. It makes conversation go so much smoother. You don't have to like second guess yourself through just text messaging. And if you can see the person, just have a short conversation with them, it makes it a lot more understanding and a lot more of a grasp of their situation, my situation, what I'm trying to achieve, what they're trying to achieve, as opposed to just texting back and forth. So I think that's why I personally like the idea of going to their house to see the fish tank, have a discussion, hang out with them for a little bit, just to get enough information between both parties to say, hey, here's what I got going on. This is what I'm looking for. And I want to know what your price range is, what you're looking for to do with this. And then we can go from there. Because that's exactly what happened with the 220 gallon I got. And it was one of the best experiences for a used tank as well, because we were patient with each other. We worked out between each other's schedules. He had the tank set up for me, and then still running. And then we figured out each other's schedules further on down the road. And then we did the money exchange the same day that I took the tank, and then we just took it home. And it was a great experience. So I think those two things are definitely something, in my opinion, that are definitely something to consider for sure, and have trust with the people as well. So I'm going to catch back up with chat here. Oh, the XP thing I was one. So you guys are just chatting here. Yeah, enjoy playing. Yep, I used to play wiffle ball, Jose, back in the days. I think that was fun. Oh, so here's your crown here. Like Sketty's got a crown. Is that what Jesse's trying to do? Sweet Polly says my only use tank is a 75 gallon, and that also was gifted to me by a friend that I trust. And that's the thing with my 55 I was telling you guys about earlier, is that was something that was given to me by a coworker of mine, and it's someone that I obviously have worked with for a long enough time. We get along at work together, which makes it even better. The whole experience is just an all around great experience, and it makes, even if you meet someone through marketplace around your area and stuff, and like maybe through your local auctions or swap meets or associations in your area, if you actually get to like talk to someone and get to know them a little bit, and then you get to see their fish room, like I did with a guy named Craig. um, we met through Marketplace. And then we got to see each other's fish room, and we got to talking a little bit. It was just easier going, relaxed. You don't have to deal with the stress of texting back and forth and trying to figure each other out. When you can actually talk to the person, it makes the experience so much easier. Just like with my coworker, and I got the 55-gallon from. It makes the process easier. If one person can help out another in the best way possible, it makes the experience all worthwhile. Oh, so all those random letters is what Jesse's just cursing in Dominican. That's awesome. In Vulcan. All right, so Jesse says trim and the cross to sport silicone mixture glass is even and not off. Yeah. Yep. Check. Yeah, I got that. Stupid. Yeah, check the trim and the cross supports silicone and make sure the glass. And even Jesse to relate on that too. If there's a stand included with it, that's another thing you have to consider is what type of stand it is. Are the cross beams going to able to support some of the weight of these tanks? And if you're comfortable with the stands to hold up these fish tanks, um, Jesse, we know you won, but who came first, the chicken or the egg? uh, let's see. Okay, so Henry says about how about big tanks, but you have to take the stand too. So that's why I was talking about too. If you look at some of these stands, even at like some of these Petco and PetSmart stands, they're probably made to support the tank, and they're obviously I have one upstairs from PetSmart. And you kind of look at the supports, and they obviously are made to support these tanks. Um, but it all comes to a point is how much do you trust the supports? Would you rather make stands yourself? Because this is also something to consider when buying used tanks, especially big tanks. Like Henry says, with big tanks and having a stand, you have to think some of these stands that you might see that you buy from someone or from your local fish stores. Look at the supports underneath. It's amazing to see supports that go across your stand, not long ways, but short ways. And I think it's absolutely hilarious to see these big stands have supports that they're literally just a piece of wood that gets slid up underneath and they're just nailed on the opposite ends. If you think about it, those are not really doing much of anything. The only way that they'll do any type of support is if those supports are over top of your 2x4s and setting up like this. If they're just up here and this is all that those things are doing is just connecting one piece of board to another, they're almost useless. So that's something to consider too. Home Depot copied Lowe's and has United Solutions make the buckets too because they are superior. Okay, so Chris is in North Carolina or Outer Banks of North Carolina to the Midwest to start a new online fish company. Well, that's fantastic, Chris. I wish you the best of luck. That sounds like a huge thing for you to take on, and I hope I wish you the best success in it. Sketty says, I think if you ask for delivery, you should pay a fee for declining. She should pay a fee for declining the sale. Free delivery if you keep it, or so much if you don't buy it. And I think that kind of makes sense too, Sketty. I agree with you on that. If you ask for delivery, you should pay a fee for declining the sale. And I think that just comes with the whole trust thing too, as well. That like if there's a delivery, I think there'd be something that is involved with if someone were to take the time and effort to go all that extra mile to deliver it and do all that stuff, and then if someone ends up not buying it, it's like, well, you know, there should be some sort of fee that like upfront saying maybe, hey, can we have this amount of like is there an agreement between the two parties? Say, hey, we want to have if we deliver it, we want to make sure that it is if you decide not to buy it, then you still got to pay that $20 or so, just because you're taking the time and effort to do this sort of thing. But then again, with my argument, I want to reflect back on that, Sketty, too, is this is why I personally would rather go see fish tanks in person before anything is even done, before the tank is even taken down. I can see the seams, the corners, the edges, the stand, the situation, what fish are in it, are the fish in the sale or not? Um, and a lot of people use like Venmo and stuff too. So some people would like to have like a cash deposit, I guess, to hold it for somebody. And that's kind of all in your comfort zone too, and what you prefer. Um, but yeah, I think that's a good point. But I'm more of a person if I want to see it. So that way, if I'm 100% satisfied, just like with my 220, then I already know, hey, I'm gonna buy it. I'm letting you know, go ahead and tear your tank down. I'm gonna give you my work schedule and say, hey, I'm available on X amount of days between this time frame, and let me know what day works best for you. Tear the tank down, and I'm gonna for sure buy it for you or from you, sort of thing. And that goes well with the communication as well. It's very important to have that discussion with these people. Um, I told Joe that likely Home Depot went to a US maker due to all that. Yep, you did bring up the tariffs, Jose. That's right. Hard to keep the cool price of about $5. I think it's a deal for those buckets. Yeah, it's crazy because they improved the integrity of the Home Depot buckets. I'm almost tempted to go back to Lowe's and look at all of their buckets. If I just happen to be in the area at the time, and I'm just like, I'm gonna stop by Lowe's and just take a look at the stack of these buckets, look at these stacks real quick, and just look at the bottom and see if they're missing things, or if maybe they're just more up to date now. I mean, Jesse, I would ask how old that video was. I mean, nonetheless, it's all coming from the same place, and they're just putting a different label on it. Hard to keep the cool price of $5 though. I mean, you can't beat $5, and I think the lows are what, like a little over $5, and I think or maybe around $5. Regardless, Home Depot buckets, even the updated ones, the price didn't change. It's still that like 350 or 370, whatever it was with tax. Um, Craigslist, man, Ben, Craigslist is the Wild West, my friend. And if you think about it too, Facebook Marketplace is a more or less glorified marketplace with the added bonus of being able to have a Facebook Messenger and see the guy's or girl's profile of saying, this is what they look like, they're obviously real and it's not a fake, email address with a fake ad, that sort of thing. So like I said, it's like a glorified Craigslist. But I'm telling you, Craigslist nowadays, you are a brave soul, my friend. Because you can get anything and everything on the Wild West there on Craigslist. Cardboard and Gorilla Tape. Jesse, I challenge you. If you can make a fish tank out of cardboard and Gorilla Tape, and don't try to mess with me on this, Jesse, because I know where you're going, or I feel like I know where you're going, that you're just going to buy some Lego fish or some decorations and you can put in the tank. Because you notice how you left out the words holding water. So I feel like that there it says, I'm pretty confident I can make a creme out of cardboard and Gorilla Tape. But you didn't say about putting real fish and holding water. That would be the real challenge. I know I've seen some stuff like how people can make cardboard boats, and they're made with tape and cardboard and however else they make it with. I know there's some rules and regulations for people to do that. But I've seen it done where people like paddle cardboard boats across like a pool and stuff and try to race across and try to see who can make it and who doesn't. But yeah, moving right along here. Um, Chris says I really wanted to order 440 gallon tanks from China, but tariffs scared me off. Yep, that is definitely something to consider too. We end up getting them from Imaginatarium. Okay, and that's probably here in the U.S. I'm assuming. Hi, JC. Thanks for coming in, my friend. Appreciate you coming in. Trying to buy property. Oh, you guys just talking about where you're trying to buy property from. Uh, I haven't announced who it is, so I can't announce where I'm going yet. Okay. There's a lot of free Craigslist stuff. I have no place for them. If I went and moved back to a house, I would definitely look at secondhand stuff. Yep. Um, I get that. Jesse says I don't care about stands anymore. I do cinder blocks and 2x6s and plywood stands, easier and faster. And that's also something to consider as well when buying these tanks. You know, do you have a spot for them? Do you want to make a stand yourself, or do you just want to buy a store-bought stand, or do you do what Jesse does and buy cinder blocks? Do you paint the cinder blocks to match your 2x4s? You know, and paint it a certain color to make everything match in your fish room. I know a lot of people like painting them black. Um, so that way it can be all matched up with like black just seems to be like a solid color, you know, that you can match easily with just about anything, whether you buy industrial shelves or like cinder blocks and stuff like that, because it can be just about as it's quick and easy, but it can be just as much. And I would want to say that maybe like buying 2x4 or 2x6 pieces of wood and making your own stand is probably cheaper than buying these cinder blocks, but it just takes more time. Whereas Jesse's statement here that he would rather do this because it's easy and quick. And I know that's like anybody else who knows Jesse, he's all about getting things done quick and fast. He's always go go go. He does things quick and fast and always on the go. Um, although I may not own a fish tank, it's one thing I know: it's fish and hurricanes. Weird combinations. Especially if you get a hurricane out in the ocean and stuff, and you might see some fish on the shore or something like that. That would be crazy. Uh, Jose said, I'd rather make my own support or cabinets. Don't trust those long term. Yeah, that makes sense. It's hard to trust those too, and I get that. Um, let's see. What else do we got going on? You guys are chatting amongst yourselves here. JC, is this an auction? It sounds like it, doesn't it? I'm going to copy your 55-gallon setup with two 220s. You guys are probably talking amongst yourselves. Um, are you talking about me, Sweet Polly? I hope so. I could technically bring in my 20-gallon long stand and show you everything, but wouldn't you rather watch the video? There's a video out there for it. Slim Tim, I think he kind of referenced my videos whenever he was making his stand too, which I was really happy about. Um, let's see here. Okay, you guys are talking amongst yourselves. What else we got? JC says, ever wonder why Costco and Sam's charges a fee for a membership? Well, they want to be able to monitor large purchases. So I don't shop at Costco or Sam's Club. I know that you have to buy a membership, but I don't really know what the benefit of having those memberships are. Like, do you get like a discount? Like, I know that that's a lot of those stores you buy it in bulk. So I guess essentially you're saving money. If I'm understanding that correctly, you buy a ton of stuff and you get, and I think maybe that's why you have to have a membership because it's like a big giant warehouse essentially. Is that the idea behind all that? I haven't been to Craigslist in years either, Henry. 2x6s for big tanks instead of the 2x4s. Yep. Trying to add value to the chat. Hardest part of using cinder blocks for me is lugging them down to the basement. Yeah. Yeah, that's if you want to use gloves and stuff to protect your hands, or if you got a long stairwell, to go down, kind of looking to your back, if you're gonna be able to do this on your own, a lot of things to consider here. Um, let's see what else we got here. Jesse says when you stack the cinder blocks, probably make sure you push back and forth a few times when you stack them to shave them a bit, or to save them a bit and sit better. Yeah, just to make sure they're all in place. Yep, that's what I thought. Yep, because I remember you made that video for it. So if you like the stanza stuff, that's kind of like what Slim Tim did. Is he used my video as a reference? I have seen your video on the stand speed tank. Oh, okay. You're referring to Jesse. Okay, gotcha. Um, Retail, wholesale, I just skip it and go straight to the supplier. It's much easier. Yeah, that's fair. Now that I'm caught up on chat, I want to talk about um, a few more points. Is when you're buying used tanks. I know I wanted to try to stay on topic of just fish tanks only, but is filtration a factor when buying used tanks? And we're getting into the big tanks here. So what I mean by filtration is, are they pre-drilled? You know, are they made for a sump? Are they made for like a saltwater setup in a sense, to where you have bulkheads and stuff that you can have for filtration? So that means maybe they don't have a 40-gallon breeder down below in these big tanks. So you're going to have to go buy another 40-gallon tank just to help with the other tank, or does it come together? Or do these tanks come with an FX4 or a canister filter, FX6, what have you? Is that something that you want to see with these bigger tanks? Like, what is your preference for bigger tanks? Would you rather, like me and Jesse, have a bunch of FX6s, set up in place so that way, if you're servicing one, you have another one running, and vice versa, with that, or like servicing your sumps and stuff? Is that something that you are curious and putting in consideration when buying these fish tanks? Or would you rather go get the tank, bring it home, or deliver it, either or, and then buy the filtration separately down the road? Because that's what I did. The 220 came with an FX6, and I just bought another one. So I already knew that that's just my comfort zone. I don't have a lot of experience with sumps. So that was a consideration for me personally when buying big fish tanks, is just because the fact that I love canister filters, especially the Fluval series, the FX series, and I've never had any issues with them. I know how to take them apart. I know how they work. I know the flow of them. I know where to place all the different media in it. So is that something that's consideration for you guys? Um, okay, just as better to buy in bulk. Henry doesn't like using cinder blocks. Um, it wastes too much space. I could for more tanks and built my racks. So Henry, I want to reflect on that. When you say it takes up too much space, um, I'm thinking in terms of um, does it really take up that? I'm not like doubting you by any means, Henry, but I was just kind of curious, is when you say space, I'm thinking in my head right now of like the cinder blocks just going straight down. You have a little bit of a lip edge on all ends of the tank, and they all just go straight down with cinder blocks. So if you buy a stand, isn't that like a little bit relative to buying a stand? Isn't the space around the same amount? Let me know in the chat, Henry. And if I'm wrong, or if I'm maybe misunderstanding your chat in the comment, um, unless you're just talking about like lower space, like do you want to put stuff underneath your fish tanks for like your filtration and stuff like that? Maybe that's what you mean. uh 90. Okay. Not everyone has 800 aquariums and needs everyone's 16th of an inch. This is true. Henry does have a lot of aquariums. And 120s are sump ready. Yeah. Okay. Every inch matters for me. I I I just won't. I'm just gonna let that one go, Henry. I think we can relate to that here in the fish community. I'm gonna let that one go. Um, Fluval has connectors for sump ready aquariums. All right. Do they make separate connectors for that? Um, or is there actual connectors? Are they kind of like that you get with the FX series? Are they just you just did buy those connectors separately? I'm thinking. I guess I've never seen those before. Um, two cinder blocks take 16 inches of space. That's another 20-gallon high I can put there. All right, so that's what you mean about taking up space, Henry. I get it. if two center blocks take 16 inches of space, that's another 20 gallon high I can put there. Man, you are just stacking tanks upon tanks upon tanks, Henry. Uh, have at it, my friend. 800 tanks. You can be using. Henry has 800 tanks, P-Tag. He can be using cinder blocks. I'll say for you, P-Tag, every inch matters. That's what she said. See, we're all on the same mindset. You beat me to it, but I just let that one go, and I think we're all on the same page. So congratulations for following me up on that. That was good. Additional purchase. Okay, that's what I thought for those attachments. Henry says, when I'm building my fish room, I was doing math calculations for space travel. Goodness gracious, Henry. JC is here to honestly learn more about fish tanks. My fish tank game. Why do you say that, JC? Why is your fish tank game weak? What is there something that you have you learned something tonight? And what is it you're looking to improve? Because we can all relate in some way tonight, here and there. You blame me for ruining your family friendly stream. Thanks, sweet Polly. I'm trying to think of like a punchline. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. No, keep hanging out with us, my friend. You're more than welcome to hang out as long as you want. Another thing to consider I want to touch base on when buying different sized fish tanks is you really have to put into consideration of where the fish tank is going to go. If you're buying big fish tanks, my on a side note, my goal eventually is to have this entire basement just be a fish room. And what I mean by that, because I know it already is, not the entire basement, this section of the basement. So I want to bring my two fish tanks upstairs because I have three up there and I'm gonna get rid of one up there. And I want to bring my two fish tanks upstairs downstairs. So that way, knock on wood, if something dire were to happen, that if anything were to leak or if something were to happen, it's down here in the basement. There's a drain, that's here. So if fish tank leaks, then that water will all be led to that drain, and I don't have to worry about ruining any of the floors. It's all on concrete floor, so I never have to worry about how big of a fish tank I need to set up, and not have to worry about it being stable. Um, do you live in a house? Do you live in an apartment? Does your landlord, want you to have fish tanks? What is the integrity of the building of your house? Do you have the right integrity and the right supports to be able to support your fish tanks, especially with bigger tanks? Because that may be a consideration to think of as well. Because some of these big fish tanks, they need that extra support, and the 125 gallon that's upstairs, it's really close to the supports of where the basement and all the room is set up. But I think I would not go any bigger than 125. Not upstairs, but like living room, dining room area upstairs, because the bedrooms are upstairs. Um, but initially that's going to be my plan, is to, now that I have my basement, I had to have some basement work done because there were some basement leaks down here that needed to be maintained. And now this basement's dry all the time. Like, no matter how heavy the rainstorm is, there's never a drop of water down here. Um, but at any rate, that's my initial goal, is to have all my fish tanks down here in the fish room. So that way everything's down here. We have more room upstairs to do whatever we need to do for like the kids, for the future, for any other hobbies you might want to do, and that sort of thing. So this is going to be my man cave down here. So that's something to consider too, where you live at, and if your living space is able to provide the support and the space needed for fish tanks for maintenance and anything else that you want to do with it. And that's just a huge thing to consider. And I know it's like something like a side note on the use tank portion, but that's the reason why I'm relating this to use tanks, is because if you buy a use tank and then something happens to it, then you might have something even more detrimental happen to your house because you bought a used tank that you weren't for sure that was going to work or not. And then next thing you know, you're replacing floorboards, you're replacing, XYZ in your house that you didn't want to replace, and that sort of thing. Um, so let me catch back up with you guys. That's what I want so bad, is a floor drain. My floor drain works, but it's not the greatest. It just drains really slow. So even if I were to have a tank leak, that floor drain would be enough. It drains fast enough that I'm able to not have to worry about my floor at all. And all my fish tanks are going to be on that side of my fish room, besides these two back here. Um, we want to know how many fish tanks you have, Henry. He has 140. You are a man of the fish keeping career. Yeah. Yep. It is phenomenal to have a fish room in the basement. Like, there's no other perfect situation than having a fish room here in the basement because of the exact points that I was given. Which is great. I love it. Okay, so you were doing an aquarium set on here. Okay. I am redesigning the fish room to fit more tanks. Henry, this is a lifestyle. Oh, connectors. Oh, those the connectors. Like, thanks, Tim. Thanks for putting that on there. I appreciate it. Your cat. So that's yeah, cats could be a consideration. What if they start fishing for your fish? you know. Henry wants to put both my 180-gallon aquariums in the fish room. Currently, both are empty. Yep. So I think, like, in essence, it's a lot to think about when buying a used tank, and I think especially when you're buying from someone you don't know, like, you just need to have that communication, and you need to be able to have that. Like, are you willing to also deal with, like, I guess for loss of better terms, but like headaches of getting a hold of someone through marketplace? Because if I'm moving very quickly in the fish room, like as far as moving fish around, taking tanks down, putting things in place and stuff, trying to work out my work schedule, work and life schedule, along with everything else, and then trying to get other people to help me with these other fish tanks, it's a hard struggle sometimes to try to get everyone's schedule to match up. And if you're not willing to communicate well, try to figure things out between your work schedule and being able to see these fish tanks, see them in person, and it literally takes 10 to 15 minutes of your day to be able to see these fish tanks. If you're in that sort of situation, it's more of a benefit for the buyer to be able to see them. And then that's the other thing too, is if the seller is willing to have the person go to their house in the comfort of their own home and see the fish tank. That's just all personal preference too. Because some people may not be 100% comfortable with that either. And maybe that's what's holding them out as well. So that's also something to consider. Hey, Cecil, welcome in. Henry, what is your biggest fish tank currently, since you're saving up to buy 200-gallon? Uh, Thanks for coming in, Cecil. Cecil's been enjoying my fishing live streams. I think he got to see most of mine and catch a few bass, I think. Sweet Polly says, question for you, P-Tag. Where do you go with your water when you do water changes? Down the drain? What about sand buildup? So the answer to that question, Sweet Polly, is I have a shower room down here as well. And I don't go whenever I do my water changes, I don't put I have a Seachay Ultra Zero pump, and I only go about halfway down in to the fish tank, 'cause so none of that sand ever gets brought up. And if it is, it's very, very, very little. So this, maybe we'll have to show it to you at some point on another live stream, Sweet Polly. But basically, every tank that's in here, I have a CJ Ultra Zero pump. I have a Python hose that's connected to it, and then it just drains all the way into the because it's a stand-up shower. So it's not like there's a big threshold or anything. It's just a curtain and everything, and it just gets drained right to the shower drain, and that drain works phenomenal. Yeah, I've never had issues with it. I've been doing this for what, at least a couple years now or more, and I've never had any of the sand having to give me any issues with the drains or anything like that. I have a slop sink that I clean stuff out of. It has very little sand in that, so all my drains have been working great. And like I said, whenever I do water changes, I only put that CJ Ultra Zero pump about halfway down inside these big tanks, and I never have any sand get brought up. And if there's anything, it's very, very little to make any difference. Um, So that's where I go with my water. And then to replace it, I use the slop sink because the water pressure is like twice as good as the bathroom sink water pressure. Hey, new local Austin, welcome in. um, what I'm trying to say is a big fish tank seems intimidating. Okay. Uh, you think that maybe the cats would go into your fish tank and jump into them? Because comment before that, you said my concerns is your cats, and then following that, you said, "What I'm trying to say is my big fish tanks is intimidating," or maybe it's the big fish that you put in your big fish tanks that's intimidating for the cats. Huh? Interesting. Uh, yeah, if there's, I don't really do much vacuuming for the substrate. The way that I do that, what I used to do before I had the CJ Ultra Zero pump is I didn't do it for a very long time. I just used the tube that the um, Python hose came with, but because the water pressure, it doesn't amount to like the quickness of suctioning the water out. Like it's like half, or like you're looking at some of these pumps, they pump out like 900 gallons per hour, give or take, with the two pumps that I use. And if you're just using the suction of a a sink or a slop sink in this case, it just doesn't amount to it, for pulling the water out. So when I used to do that, I used to just go just above the sand and just kind of, because it didn't suck out as much, there wasn't as much suction power on those tubes on the Python hose. So it was easy to just kind of graze along the top of it, and you essentially everything sits on the sand. I don't do any, because all my tanks have sand in them, except for the one that I'm tearing down at some point upstairs. It's the only one that has gravel in it. But if you just kind of lightly, graze your tube across the sand, it would eventually just kind of float that detritus and debris and stuff like that off of the sand, and you could just pick it up real quick. So what I do in place of that, since I don't do that, is I have the CJ Ultra Zero pump on the one side of the tank, and then I'll just take my hand if there's a lot of detritus and debris and stuff and waste that is on the surface of the sand. I'll just kind of lightly kind of fan my hand around a little bit because I don't like to disturb that sand substrate, because if you look here, all this dark right here, this is, oh, this whole line here is beneficial bacteria that sits, and this is why I like using deep substrate as best as, or as most as I possibly can, is because I don't like to disturb that, because that's good beneficial bacteria that sits within the substrate, even if being so deep, that I don't like to disturb that substrate and release all that beneficial bacteria and get and suck it into the hose, or the pump in this case. So what I do is I just kind of fan my hand around a little bit here and there and just kind of slightly, push all the detritus and debris over to my CJ Ultra Zero pump, and that's how I get all the waste out of my fish tanks. And that way, that pump is only sitting about halfway. I just kind of fan it over there to get all that off the bottom of my sand. I hope that makes sense for you. Um, I woke up morning to a hazy apartment because my cat pulled the heater out of the tank and it landed. Holy smoke! Are you serious? The cat figured. I wonder if you know why. See, Sweet Paula. I wonder if their suction cups failed, because suction cups fail a lot in this hobby, and I don't understand the reason why the fish keeping hobby is still using suction cups to this day. Jungle cats. Hey Tommy, how's it going? How's your gravel vac going? Have you still using it? Um, yeah, the someone should trademark Plan B suction cups. I'm with Jesse on this, that he really needs to, him and I need to come up with a company name or something, and it'll be like an anti-suction cup slogan. And we just need to switch everything to magnets. Like, it can't be that hard to do, to make a product, a double sponge filter, a heater, and just slap a magnet on one side, and then put a, with a pad on the one side and just put another padded magnet on the other and just put it against the tank. And you're solid. It won't go anywhere. It won't fall down during water changes. It won't be a pain in the butt to use. Um, it's doing great. I even use it in the pool. I hope you're careful doing that. I use an AQQA pump, and I specifically use it for pool purposes. And I have it. The reason I do it, long story short, is I got like a smaller pool for my 2.5-year-old daughter. So if she doesn't want to use the big pool and she wants to use a smaller pool, I use that pump and put it in the big pool, pump water to the smaller pool, and then when I'm done, I put the water from the smaller pool back into the bigger pool. So I hope you're careful with that. I hope you don't mix it too much. I mean, if you do that, um, hopefully that you have a way of, I don't want to say, for loss of better terms, disinfecting it, but I mean with the pool chemicals and not mixing it with your fish room stuff. I'd be a little hesitant doing that, but as long as you find a use for it, that's great. Sweet Polly said my first tank was in 1996. My cat loved to sit on the glass canopy and bat the fish to the back. So that's kind of where you're getting at. Oh, that was I'm sorry, that was JC that was talking about his cat. But yeah, it makes me wonder, like, Sweet Polly. So whenever you got these fish tanks, were the glass canopies, were they made a lot thicker, depending on the size fish tank, I guess too. Um, I'm just trying to think in terms of when your cat, if it's sitting on the glass canopy, and what if the glass canopy breaks, depending on the size of the cat and the thickness of the glass, right? Um, oh, that's how they got the heater, I'm guessing. Melted a spot in the carpeting. It's funny now, not so much then. You always got to look back at that stuff and laugh, right? I mean, that's the only way you can get over it, is just be like, well, it is what it is, right? Uh, JC, can we discuss the flesh-eating bacteria in the waters of the Gulf that are contracted by open cuts? That might be something to ask Tommy about here, Aquatic News Network, because he's all into that sort of thing of different and different topics to talk about with things happening in the natural world. JC, that reminds me of what's that movie called? Cabin in the Woods. Have you seen? Are you into horror movies? Because that's what that reminds me of. And then they contract something, and then the next thing you know, that their skin's just falling off of them, and it just destroys them. So you use natural cleaners, vinegar, so no worries. Okay, well that's good then. Yeah, because I was wondering after you said that, I was just like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do that, but if it works for you and you're using it for multi-purpose, that's fantastic, especially for the pool. If you want to get like some of that debris on that just sits on the bottom and it's able to have the power, enough power to be able to suck that up, then that works great. I feel pretty good now that I was able to give that to you too as well, just because the fact that you're using it for a multi-use. So you're definitely putting some good use to that thing. I'm so happy about that. Okay, you didn't remember how thick it was. It was a 30-gallon tank, so probably like an 1/8 inch thick. Maybe I would think it'd be a 1/4 inch thick, but enough that the integrity of the fish tank and the braces and the canopy is enough to hold your cat up. And I'm assuming most tanks would, as long as your cat's not like overly huge, and old and just a loafer. Yep, make sure to hit that like button. Chris, is the very first aquarium I remember was my parents when I was about 3. My first aquarium was a 10-gallon, and then my dad had a 29-gallon aquarium, and I took the stint from him, and that's how this whole hobby started. The memory is me throwing a baseball through it, and we lived in a second floor apartment. Oh my gosh. So why did you throw a baseball through it? Is it like you guys were playing baseball inside the apartment and you were just throwing the ball around and it just smashed it, kind of like that one popular YouTube video that got like 1 million likes, where like the tank just kind of collapses and goes all over the floor. Probably not that bad, but um, I remember when my parents scrambling around with a green Tupperware bowl picking up the fish. Yeah, that would be an insane situation. From entering dirty brackish salt water. I don't get it in the Gulf. It smells like gasoline, so I know better. Yeah, so I can't really touch base on the your comment, JC. I don't know a whole lot about it, so I can't help you. Maybe that's something that the Aquatic News Network, maybe that's something Tommy could touch base on in his next news network. That would be something that he would be able to put on, and then we could further discuss that on a further live stream. So it's obviously it's a problem then. There you go. There's a new topic for you, Tommy. On beach dead fish from at one point. That's crazy. Yeah, I would look into that. That would be a good topic to discuss. I'm always careful of the water source I go to or get into. Yep, that's good. That makes sense. So yeah, a lot of things to consider. For any of you guys who are just coming in later on down the road here, we talked about factors of buying a used tank: trust, communication, seals, whether they're cracked or split. Hopefully they're not. Are you willing to reseal? I talked to Jim from Hackle Place Aquatics. If that's something that you're good with doing. What's the biggest size tank that you would go with to where you'd have to see it up and running in person before buying? Biggest I've done myself is a 40-gallon breeder, and even a 50, actually a 55. I correct myself, but I think for me personally, if it was 75 or higher and maybe pushing 125, I talked about earlier, I'd rather go see it in person because you can still kind of fit that and not get a truck on the bed of a truck. But if you're spending like hundreds of dollars, I mean, I personally don't like I personally would rather see the tank in person, save yourself a couple $100, and just takes 10 to 15 minutes to go look at it and see what it looks like, and then go from there. Look at the integrity of it. Is there pictures and videos that Jesse was talking about? Is filtration a factor? Whether there's bulkheads, if there's a sump involved. And the hardest part, of course, like I said before, is to get both parties to match up, both parties to be in agreement of different things, work between your work and life balance. Is there anything extra you want to buy with your used tank too as well? If there's anything that you're considering buying on top of that, the cost of everything too, is that something to consider when buying used tanks? Because if you buy it used and next thing you know, either the tank leaks or say if the filter that you got with it you don't like, or maybe the filter went bad along with your used tanks, then you have to buy another filter. It's all these considerations, like the location of your tank, where you're going to put it in your house. You just got to be prepared for all these things. And if you're going through Marketplace or Craigslist, are you willing to deal with the headaches or the ghosting, of contacting someone, and the next thing you know, don't hear from them for days, and next thing you know, something stupid happened, and you're like, well, is it worth the headache if you're trying to go through any of this stuff? I mean, can get pretty ridiculous. So that's kind of a gist of what I want to talk about with you guys tonight, of why we had this discussion and what brought to light with it. Okay, so you covered it. Oh, you did cover it before. Okay, film thousands of dead fish on the beach. Okay, so maybe you could send that to JC, or maybe you could put that link in the chat, Tommy, and he'd be able to watch some of that, because that would be kind of cool to see. Let's see here. My dad has a baseball trophy that his little league team had signed. I took it off the trophy base and said, "Catch, Dad." Sailed right by and right through the tank. Oh, those memories you'll never forget, right? And you just happen to be in my live stream and you're like, oh yeah, I couldn't think of it. So that's cool. Or not really cool. I mean, it's fun to laugh at now. About the time, it probably wasn't so cool. I mean, it was probably very, very not so cool. Very nerve wracking. Jason says that media doesn't bring it up a lot, but it's an issue for some of our waters. Okay. So Henry, didn't know you were still in here. That is actually something I actually ran by my wife, and something to consider for myself. And that all depends on two things. One, if I'm planning to move my 2 tanks from upstairs down here, I probably will not build my own fish tank. But if I decide to keep the 2 tanks and leave them upstairs for now for a long time, and once my 220 is in place, then that would probably be something I would look into further, because as soon as that 220 is in place and it's up and running, fish and all, and filtration and everything, and it's just maintaining, um, then that's what I can start figuring out, because I want to do like, if I were to do something like that, I would do a plywood aquarium, but I would have to look extensively into the details of it. I know Cyclo Bros has done a plywood aquarium. I know King of DIY has done some with like pond shield and stuff, and there's a lot of different steps to take it. There's a lot of information out there I could use and look up and that sort of thing. But I would have to measure the space available after the 220s in, because after everything is all said and done, and I make my decision to say, hey, if I'm keeping my two upstairs and I'm going to leave the space open, um, then that's when I have to start doing the measurements and think and look at the information of buying that. But if I decide to bring the two tanks down here, then I will not be building that plywood aquarium. And when the 220 is in place, I'm going to like, that's kind of like, this is like my last time I'm ever going to be bringing a fish tank and moving fish tanks around, because I don't want to do it again. Unless it's something small, like a 20-gallon or something like that, I indicate for a quarantine tank. Or if it's something that's simple, I can just grab and fill up and then throw in somewhere, then that's fine. Um, I'm just talking about specifically like big tanks. Like I'm talking like even like 40 to 55 gallons and up. Like I'm done moving big fish tanks. If it's something small, whatever, if I need it for emergency or whatever, that's fine. But I don't ever want to buy another big fish tank or move another big fish tank after I'm either one, moving the two from upstairs to down here, or two, leaving those and building a plywood tank. Because I've done enough fish tank movement that I don't want to do it anymore after this. I want to have my fish room. I want to have my tank set up of what I want, and then be done and just maintain for the rest of my life. And never buy fish tanks ever again and be settled. So that's kind of my plan. Uh, okay. Seems like you guys are talking a lot about the water sources and the streams and stuff and where they come from. It's very interesting. Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. Henry, I knew you were going to do this to me. 9 by 15 and 25 by 12. Right at the top there. I was prepared, randomly prepared. um, that was my notes from last time. So I pay attention. I write notes down. So yeah, 9 by 15 and 25 by 12. So 9 by 15 and 25 by 12. You almost got me. Let's see here. Oh, hey Jeff, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. Cecil's still in here, looks like. Yeah, you did. You got me. You might have to ask me like 2 or 3 months from now and see if I still save my notes. I gotta get a new notebook because I'm starting to run out of room on here. I have notes for tonight too, because I want to make sure I was prepared for today's live stream. And I did that all like right before the live stream started. Or right before I ate today, actually. But Jeff, you must have been hanging out with friends and family and having your July 4th weekend, or maybe you were fishing, or maybe you were on MNC. Maybe you were on MNC's live stream. That could be too. You're welcome. You're welcome, Henry. Ask me that question again like a few months from now. um, I think we had a really good discussion. We had a lot of people come in and pop in and come and go and stuff. Are you Jason, are you talking to me? I was watching Cat Williams live last night. Oh, I didn't know he was still doing that. I didn't know Cat Williams was still around. Okay, I'm getting ready for mine. Okay, I'll have to pop into your live stream too, Jeff. I'm gonna hopefully catch my daughter before she goes to sleep. So I'm probably gonna be getting off here soon. But I wanted to my background. I um do I always do you always do fish tanks like with the background? Are you talking about like here? Like this setup wasn't here. So my brother and I, we built this. There's a short video about it on my channel that you can watch and check out. It's like 6 or 7 minutes long. It's like a brief description of what we did. But as far as down here in this basement, I've always done fish tanks, and my job is actually not even fish tank related. And I'm not a carpenter, or I don't do much construction, and not that great of a handyman. So that's why my brother, and it was actually more of a help than I was helping with this stuff. I just did the measurements, he got the tanks ready, and we put our heads together and put this all together. So he's more of the construction person than I am. He helped me put this all together, and we both kind of did it together as the same thing, and it was a big help. Um, Hopefully that answers your question, if that's what you were referring to. Jeff, I'm going to pop into your live stream here soon. Thanks, Sweet Polly, for coming in. I appreciate it. You're welcome for great advice. And have a good night. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Really? My wife and I went for oh, it's for 13 years. Okay, so he wasn't recently because my wife and I just had our wedding anniversary on June 29th. If that's what you're talking about, but yeah. It's not worth it. Yeah. I don't I was trying to figure that out earlier, Henry. Remember how who was in here? Was it oh shoot. Someone was in here and they had a crown and Jesse was trying to regain that crown. Is that like the person that has the most chat and most chat boxes in here and that's why they have the crown? Cat Williams. I like Cat Williams, but I never loved Cat Williams, but he did have some funny bits that I thought were pretty good. Um okay. What time does your live stream start? Does it start at 10 Eastern time? At any rate, I'll probably pop in and hang out with for a little bit. I do want to let you guys know for the people that are left in here. I know I had mentioned briefly to everyone. Um, okay, 10. All right, cool, Jeff. Sounds savvy. Cat Williams, he's okay. He's not my favorite comedian. Um, I do like Adam Sandler. He's actually going on tour right now. He's going to be like an hour from my house. I can't imagine how expensive those tickets are going to be, but that might be kind of fun to do. I don't really have a favorite comedian per se. I don't really go to stand-ups a whole lot either. I'd rather just watch them movies. But anyways, before I go tonight, I do want to let you guys know for the rest of the people that are in here that I do plan on doing a giveaway. When I did those vertical live streams, 3 different ones, and I had it like in gifts as question marks. Each one of those vertical live streams had gifts to them that people put their money into, and the whole reason behind that is the money that you guys are giving to me and my channel and that sort of thing. I want to be able to give back to you guys, and that was my initial goal, like from the get go, because it was something that the YouTube was doing a special on. That if I were to have at least one gift per vertical live stream before an end date, then they would get 50% bonus extra of whatever I earned from those gifts. So because of that happening, now I want to give back to you guys on a giveaway sometime. I don't have it scheduled yet, but it's going to be sometime next weekend, probably Saturday, maybe. I'm hoping probably the best time to do it. But I want to be able to hang out with you guys again, do a live stream, maybe invite some people up at the same time and hang out for a little bit while we're doing the giveaway. Whether it be anyone else that's been on my live stream that wants to join in can. I'll probably do another Show Me Your Tanks episode, at some point, because I know a lot of people seem to like getting that, joining on my live stream, showing off the tanks and that sort of thing. So I want to get back. I want to get back into that. But anyways, I want to get back into doing another giveaway since you guys have been generous enough to watch my channel, be able to participate and give something to me so I can give back to you guys as a way of saying thank you for watching my channel. I appreciate all you guys being in here. It makes it active. So I want to do that next weekend at some point. Okay, so it goes for a long time. Jeff, do you have guests on your live stream by chance? So if I want to pop in and hang out for a little bit, I could, or is it just for you? out of curiosity. So I wanted to let all you guys know about that before I go. Hopefully, I can see my daughter before she goes to sleep. I assume that they're probably getting ready for bed and all that sort of thing. But it's been a good topic. I've hung out with you guys for almost 2 hours. And that's kind of the mark that I kind of want to stay with. I don't really want to go much longer than that. I don't want to take too much time out of your day. Go spend some time with your family, before the work week starts. Hang out with your fishy friends, jump on different live streams. And I appreciate everyone's time and just hanging out with me. It's been a good night. We've talked a lot about this topic. Um, okay, okay, fair enough. And everyone, take care. Be safe. Be happy. Be healthy. Um, keep doing what you're doing, and I guess we'll have a good night. Thanks again, everyone. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you guys soon. And I'm making a video too. I'm still in the process of making it, so look for that in the coming few days. All right, later. Take care. Thank you again.